This is our minor project, and it is a gearbox. So it consists of 3 drawings that you'll need to do. There's the final assembly, which actually 2 drawings, which come from the first, which combine to the final assembly drawing. We have to draw the parts. We have to draw the case, and then the parts are inserted into the case drawing to make the final assembly drawing. Now there's a trick here, because you'll notice that the case drawing, there's a scale missing here. The case drawing is actually drawn at a scale of 1 to 4. The parts drawing is drawn at a scale of 1 to 2. So what we need to do to start this drawing is, obviously we've got our A3 sheet. You notice at the end of the day we want it to print onto an A3 sheet. So there's a couple of ways we can do the scale. We can use layouts, but we haven't learnt layouts yet. We'll be doing that later on. At this stage what we will do is actually scale up our original A3 sheet by the factor of the scale factor. So we want to draw it at 1 to 2. We'll make our sheet 2 times bigger, and then we draw our parts full size. We always draw our parts full size. So we have an A3 sheet here which we prepared earlier. I'll just check the size of it and make sure it is correct. For this one's actually 420. It is better to have a 420 border and then a 400 inside, but we'll work with this for now. Yeah, a 10mm border left and right. So what we need to do is to scale this. We use the scale command. We'll just select the whole thing like so, and enter. And well, let's do the parts first. So I'll make this a scale factor of 2. Must have done something wrong there. We'll just do it again. Scale. We missed the base point. Yeah. So the base point is going to be the 0, 0, and our scale factor is 2, and we now have a sheet that we'll draw our parts on full size. We can save it straight away. Do a save as, and I'll just put it in a temporary directory here, and let's call it gearbox parts. Okay. Now I'll just go back and I'll do my case drawing. So that should be back. We'll just make sure it's the right size again, 420. And what we're going to do is scale that. So we'll select it, base point, and 4 times. And this one we will save as gearbox case, and we'll go ahead then and draw the case full size. So from there on we are going to create blocks of the parts. Now when we create the blocks, I won't do that in this video, but there's a couple of things to bear in mind. We're not interested in the dimensions, so we'll turn that layer off, and the text probably as well. We'll turn that layer off. We have to be careful when we're doing hatching that we make each of the parts independently hatched. You can't just go through and hatch the whole lot, because when you try and make a block it'll take the hatching for the whole lot, or leave it out altogether. Also, when we put the assembly together, we'll just have a look at the final job here from the notes. If I can just make this bigger, and I want to show you something here as well. If you hit Control Shift minus, that will rotate to the left. Here's our final drawing, and you'll notice that the shaft goes through the bearing and the gear, and there is no line showing across the middle there. So if we look at our part, when we draw it, we'll be drawing a line through the bearing and the spacer and the bearing cover, But when we do the block, we want to exclude those lines, so that when we put it together, you don't have to worry about those lines. So we'll just go back to AutoCAD again. What we're going to be doing is making a block, which, as I said, we've covered before. We won't worry about it now. We would need to select the outline, the hatching. We don't necessarily want the center line for all of the parts. We might take it for the shaft, so we've got one center line for the whole assembly, and we'll make a block of each, a W block of each one of these. So we'll make one for shaft, for end cover, for bearing, and so on. Then we'll go to our assembly drawing, which we can use our case drawing once that is done, and save it as assembly, gearbox assembly, and then start inserting the parts. And I'd suggest you bring in the shaft first and just put it up in the top corner, then bring in the gear and the spacer and start building up all the parts on the shaft. Once you've got that in place, and they will all be blocks because they'll be inserted drawings from external drawings, then we'll take a copy of that and place it in position in the side view, and then two more copies and place them in position in the top view. So we'll finish up with a final assembly, like so. Now notice a couple of other details are required. This is a section, so we need some section lines to indicate where it's being cut. The top is also a section, so we want some section lines on our front view, and we need to label it section AA for the top and section BB for the side view. And you'll notice on this drawing the dimensions are shown here as just as X, which is obviously not what I want. I want you to give me your dimensions, and I'll know if you've got it right by two ways. Firstly, everything will fit together perfectly, no gaps or overlaps, and I'll see what dimensions you get here, so I'll know if you've got it right. So that should be your finished drawing, and I want you to hand in all three of those drawings: the gearbox parts, the case details, and the assembly. Okay.